So, hello everyone. Sorry for that, but I'm always having little issues with the sound, and I have just managed to fix that. Now I think we are just ready to go, and for this reason, I'll just run Visual Studio, and then I will share the screen. Okay. So hello, Midon. I hope I pronounced your name well. And hello, Sarush. Yeah, there is. I will put them in a playlist right now after we finish this video, so you can find them, part 1 and part 2. And hey, hi, Stefan. How are you? So what I'm gonna do is. So, well, thank you so much, guys, for joining me here today for this session. I hope you are enjoyed the first part and part 1 and part 2, and also other courses if you attended any on AK Academy. But starting from this year or the new year, so in this case, we are going to focus more on live videos because I think it's more interesting, and we will go in such projects like this because this course is easy to finish and easy for you to watch because you can follow with me just part by part. Until now in this course, we have done a very great thing. We have defined the infrastructure, then we have defined, let's say, how we can register a user, as you can see, or sorry, log in a user here inside the iUser service. We have created last time this function that basically create an access token. We have created the database. So we have done some good steps. Right now, what I have to do is to create responses for this one, and then we will generate some or creating the register functions so the new user for the system can open that, register into the system, so they are able to take advantage of searching for the content in addition to, let's say, being able to comment for the videos or like the videos that they are going to watch inside the platform. So right now, let's get started. First, by creating a response object for this one, which is basically here for this login, I will create a new object here inside the shared project. I will right click, I will add a new class, and I will call it login response. Like that. So in this case, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so here I will create this response, and it's going to contain basically the access token, the expiry date of that access token, and we will have Boolean indicator that indicates if there is a success or failed, and we will have a message as well. So we will return a message back to the user that invalid username or password, or we are going to return you have logged in successfully with the access token and expiry date. I'll make sure to put this one like this by adding this question mark. So right now, this one is a nullable type. So this means it can take the null value. And this one is a string, so by default, it can take the value. So right now, let me copy this, and I will go back to the service here inside the iUser service, and I will change the response from object to this one, and here as well. So great. Right now, I have to retrieve a login response back to the client. So what I have to do is, instead of returning null here, I'm going to return something like this. Return new. And there is no access token because it's the user is not existing here. So I'm going to just return a message. I'll say that invalid username or password. You can say that invalid or the user does not exist at all, but it's better to say invalid username or password. and its access is going to be false. So just like that. It is that simple. Right now, oh, sorry, it's just like this. So I can copy this, and I can put it here as well for the same check password async. And at the end, I can return. OK, here, I have returned a new login response. The message right now, welcome to dotNET Labs. Just like that. And what I can do as well is return the access token, which is basically the token as a string. And then the expiry date is the token. Yeah, it's this one. I can put it here. Just like that. Or I can define it to expiry date equals this date time. And then let me replace this one with this one here. So that's great. So in that case, right now we will receive a login response object. So let me run the project right now. And here I have the SQL server. I will choose, OK, /SQL Express. And I will open up Postman. OK, great. So if I go to databases here, dotNET Labs, and OK, let's wait a little bit. So here we have the API running. OK, this takes a few minutes. Don't think it's going to take a few minutes, but OK. So if you open up a new query here, and what I'm going to do is just make a select from ASP.NET users. OK, great. I've created that user called test@dotNET Labs. And as you can see, the password here is hashed, and we have all other things. So, OK, come on. OK, great. So basically, this is the request from the previous session. It's still like at this place. It's a post request, and this is the endpoint. And if we go to the body, it receives an email and password. This is the right email and the right password. So if I try to send this time, oops, I got this. If we check that, let's take this one. And I will put it here, and then say /authentication. OK. Oh, not found. OK, then let's have a look at the controllers. Oh, I think, am I in the wrong project? OK, so oh, I think I'm on the project that I have cloned from. I have the one on GitHub, and I have this one. But OK, that's fine. We can do that here. It's pretty simple. Let me go to the startup. OK, we have authentication existing here in the user service. OK, so what I have to do in this controller, I have to say, let's remove it. And then for add new controller, choose MVC. And for that one, I will choose API controller. Let's call it again authentication controller. Great. Now all I have to do is just to inject the iUser service. Okay. Then create the constructor and put that service here. Okay, fine. So now I can create HTTP post with login, public async task, I action result, login, then we receive login request. Okay, let's add the namespace, dotNET shared model, and at the end, all I have to do is just to say result equals await user service dot generate token. Let's add the model, and here I can say result dot is success, then return OK, and return the response as it is. Other than that, return bad request and return also the result. So it's going to be the same object. So that's great. Here we have, let's check the comments. Okay, is success equals true from Sarush? Let me see if I go here. Oh yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Okay, that's great. Save, and now let's run this one and open up Postman again. So as I have said in the previous session, you just create all that services, all that repositories, the classes, just at the end to when you reach the class or the controller step, like you just one line of code and that's enough. Everything is clear and there is like this way of layers takes some little bit code, but it makes your life very easy. So now let's try that again and click send. Okay, that's great. As you can see, we have this object right now that contains our access token, and it contains the expiry date, the is success, and the message. So that's great. Right now, we have the login functionality just working perfect from the level of the server. So, and if you remember that the user that I'm logging in with that has been created from the seeding process that existing here, and this user by default is admin. So right now, if I want to make sure that is admin's work, I'll go to the user forecast, authorizes here. So if I want to make it authorized only for admin, so you can just do like this, rules equals admin. If you have multiple rules, you can just do like this for admin, customer, user, etc. So it allows you to add multiple roles. But for now, I have only one role, so it's admin. Now let's run that. And so in this case, we make sure that authorization is just working perfect. Okay, cool. So now let me go to this one, and I will take this token from here, the new one. Okay, and I'll put it here for the authorization. That's great. Now let's click send. Okay, so here we go. We have all the weather forecast comes back. So this means that this user is admin. And so in this case, the authentication and the authorization is just working perfectly. So now we can move to the next part, which is allowing the user to create a new account in the system. And in this case, we have to register a user. And basically, the admin is able to create other admins. But the user, when he wants to register, he just fills out his information. And then in this case, we are going to create immediately a user with a role of just user, like normal user. So let's do that. And the first step is to create a register request. So I will go here and add a new class, and I will call it like register request. Okay, that's fine. I'll add this one here. So let's add public string, first name, email, and public string last name. Sorry, I forgot the last name. Do like that. And here we have password. Have as well confirm password. So confirm password, just like that. This is basically all the information that the user needs to create or register into the system. So let's add a little validation here, like required. Okay, you can click Control Dot to show this quick fixes menu. So this one is required as well. The email is required, and at the same time, it is an email address. Password, it's also required. And for the confirm, I'm going to use compare. Like you have this compare attribute. If you didn't use it before, this one allows you to compare the current value with other properties. So name of password, which means compare this one with this one. If they are not the same, so in this case, just forget about that and return is an error. So here I have the register request. Now let me create a response for that. But this response is going to be a little different. I'm not going to create like login request and login response, register request and register response. Just login because it's a specific case. It's going to return some like specified properties. For other action that's going to be done in the system, like creating a new resource or deleting something, commenting, or all the stuff, those actions, basically I'm going to create a one generic response called operation response. This one will wraps all the parts of, let's say, authentication, the data that we want to submit back to the client, in addition to a message and the status of the request, whether it's success or no. So I will, in the shared here, I will add a new class, and I will call this one operation response. So this one is going to be generic. It's going to be used for all type of response, all type of actions. So I'll make it public, and here I'll define T, which means this one is going to deal with, it's generic, it's for multiple type, not only specific for one type. So if in our case, we will return back to the user like just a message, but when the admin creates a new video, we are going to submit back like the video with the new ID that has been generated on the server and so on. So we have the operation response, and let's fill out some properties like message and pool is success. And then we will return the object that we want to return back to the client, which is of type T, and at the same time, I will call it data. So just like this. But if you notice, like this one and the login response both has like is success and message. So what I can do is create advantage of the inheritance and save some code. So I can call base response, and then let me cut that from here, and I'll paste this here, then make it public. And now we save that. So this one should inherit from base response. So this is great, and I'll do the same for the operation response. This one should inherit from base response. So this one is also have a success and message, just like that. So it should have only data in the child class. So this is great. Now I will close this one, close this, and this as well. Okay, fine. Now in the user service, what I have to do is to create a new action here, or okay, it's here. And this task is going to return operation response of type string for now, and it will take register request model. That's it. This is the definition of the function. Now let's implement this in the implementation here of the service. I will click on implement interface. Okay, so this is it. First, let me mark it as async. So that's great. Now, first thing I should do is to get any user that had the same email. So maybe in this case, like a user trying to create another account, but with an email that's already existing in the system. So what I have to do is to get the user by email, and I'll say await unit of work dot users dot find, or let's say get by email, and I'll say model dot email, just like that. So in this case, I'll have if user by email is not null. So this means that there is a user that had the same email. So in this case, I should return an error, and I would say it's success, it's false, message, another user, or user is already exists. Just like that. I don't need to return any data. So in this case, it just not exists. It's pretty simple. Now, the other step is to simply, let's create the user. So I'll type here, our user equals new application user. Let's add the namespace .NET Labs.server.models and the models. And let's define the first name equals model.firstname, and last name equals model.lastname, and email equals model.email. Then I have username, which is equals to the email by default. So those basically the only property that we want to define. And right now, I'll make await unit of work dot users dot create user async, and this function that we have created in the previous session that takes 3 parameters: the user, the password, and the role. The password is not going into the object directly because, as you know, ASP.NET identity like use the string because it's making some hashing and salting before it's stored in the database. So we have to pass the user, and we need to pass the password, and we will pass the role, and it's called basically just the user. And you can see the roles here existing in this table, ASP.NET roles. So we have admin and we have user. By default, all the users created or registered into the system, they are going to be users, of course. So basically, this is the process. And after that, all I have to do is just to return a new data. Basically, for this time, I'm not going to return anything. Just I'll return a message. Welcome to .NET Labs. The success equals true. Okay, just like that. So as you can see, this function is pretty simple, but it allows us like to create any new user. So let's go back to the controller here, the authentication controller. I will copy this as it is, and then paste it here. Let's call it register. And for the login, I will change the name to register. This one is going to be register request instead. And this one, instead of generate token async, it's going to be register user async. So as you can see, that was pretty easy. So we invested some time in creating projects and repeating some code that's already defined in like entity framework. But right now, as you can see, we can just simply copy any method and just use it directly. And the final using of our stuff, that it's pretty easy, just 3 lines of code, or basically 1 line. This is the line that does everything. So we have a new function available. Let's run it now and see the result. So yeah, hey Maximo, Merry Christmas for you, man, and for everyone. Wish like 2021 gonna be a great year for the full Earth and humanity. Wish to see like it's going to be interesting because .NET 6 is going to be out there, so we will have .NET MAUI, and Blazor is going to be much more advanced. So basically, I'm excited for 2021. So Here, let's go back to Postman, and then I have this request. I will click on duplicate. So that's great. Now, let's change this to register. For the authorization, there is no need to have any authorization because by default, you are going to create a new account. You are not registered yet. So I will leave those like test. I will call this one like Ahmad, for example, and then I will have first name. It is Ahmad, and then last name, that, and we still have just, confirm password. So confirm password at the same. That's great. Let's first, before I create this user, let me try to use a user that's already exists, which is dotNET Labs, and see what will happen. So I will click on send. And here we go. We got a pretty exciting like message. Users already exist, so that's nice, and everything is working fine. I will make it Ahmad and then try it again. And wow, we got is success true. Welcome to dotNET Labs. And if you go to the database and make another check from ASP.NET users, just like that, click F5. Okay, it's from. Here we go. The user is existing here. We have a new one. And to make sure that this user is assigned to a role successfully, we can query the ASP.NET user roles table. Click F5. So here we have mapping for the first user and mapping for the new one. Now let's try to log in with that one. I will go back to this, which is, and I will use this email. Let's click send. Oh, that's great. You see like how easy that to have a very like powerful authentication system, authorization, and like that easy. So it's pretty interesting, pretty simple as well. And before we stop the app, if you remember that right now weather forecast is working for the admin. So if I try to use this access token, which is basically for a user, access the weather forecast, I should get an error. It's 401, like, or basically access denied or forbidden. Okay, that's fine because you are already logged in, but you don't have access to this content because you are not an admin. So that's great, and like I hope you get the good idea out of all the steps that I have done in this session and the previous two ones. And if you have any question before we proceed with anything new, please, you can just put them right now in the comment section. So here we have a one from Maximo again. It can be configured to generate the token when the user signs up. Yeah, for sure. You can directly here, or no, the services iUser service. Yeah, what you can do is basically in this operation response, you can return back a login response, and if the user logs in successfully, so here you can make a call for this function for the generate token. In this case, you have the user logged in. But why basically I did this approach? Because in some cases, what you are going to do is you will register the user, and before he logs in, you will send an email to his inbox to make sure that this one is the right email address, and you will ask the user, please confirm your email, and then come back and log in. This is why like this separation happens even in the real or big projects. You see, you create an account, and it pushes you back to the login page and says, okay, please go to your inbox and activate your account. So we have another question, like, is there a way to rename the ASP.NET table names? Well, honestly, yeah, that's a very good question. I didn't try it before, but of course, there should be a name, a way to rename them. Let me see here if we try to from the models. application DB context. Okay, from here we can say builder dot entity ASP or application user, and you can say dot to table. Yeah, this is how you can do it. And for example, you can call it my users or whatever. So it is in this way, like entity. You can do that in the on model creating by overriding it. We have done that already to manage the relationship between the entities. So in this case, using the Fluent API, you can use the .to table, and I think this one should work. But let's leave them as ASP.NET. I've been using identity for more than 6 or 7 years, and I didn't tried or thought about renaming them. I don't know why. So thanks for that question. Now we have changed the ASP.NET users to user. We have a question: will you integrate this app with the cloud resources like Azure SQL? Basically, the Tickets Basket course is going to do all the Azure stuff. This one, I've got a lot of requests and email that we don't need to use Azure because it's a little bit expensive. And this is why I went with the approach, like everything's on premise. So we create our authentication system. We will host an app, but not on Azure. But hosting this app on Azure or using the Azure SQL is not going to be that hard. It's going, by the way, it's pretty easy and easier than doing other things. But yeah, for now we are going to using a host called smarterasp.net. It's great. I have been using it for a while, and it has a SQL server and good hosting for all the .NET SDKs like .NET 5 or before, and it's pretty cheap. This is the good thing about it. So this is why you should consider it when you are building like small website or small apps. In addition to this, like it's a little bit secure, not bad, and another good feature, pretty easy to use, easy to configure, and it gives you 60 days for free without even using a credit card. So this is why you should consider using Smarter ASP. So basically, it is this one. Yeah, it is here. So I'm also using this one for about 4 years, and it's pretty good for like small apps and websites. But basically, for all my new project that I'm building, I'm pushing with everything to Azure because maybe it's a little bit expensive for the short term, but for the long term, no, it's not expensive at all. Especially when you get heavy load for the system, like suddenly many users comes into the system. In Azure, with one click, you can scale all the stuff, and on the heavy load, like it became cheaper than other stuff. So ASP, yeah, you can remove all the ASP prefix, and then we have, so Tickets Basket will be continued. Yeah, for sure. I didn't post any video for a while, but what I'm doing is basically I'm already recording because managing my time is a little bit hard. So I'm recording videos, and I will start doing like push 10 videos and 10 videos. So when I push videos, they're going to be 10. So you have plenty of time to watch until I push the other 10, let's say, because it looks a long course. It's the topics that are covered within it. It's pretty much like they are heavy somehow. So this is why it took time. And in the last period, I was pretty busy. So this looks great. I hope like the idea of this reached it in a good way. Now we can move to something else after we have created the, let's say, the server and the authentication. Everything is configured perfectly. Now we can start working, for example, with the first step is to start working with playlists. So allow the user to create, edit, delete, or retrieve all the playlists that are existing in the system. So to do that, first let me let's start also from the first point, which is the shared here. And I will create a new class, and then I will call it playlist detail. You can call it whatever you want, like This one is basically the DTO, the object that you are going to post to the server and retrieve also back from the server, so to the client. So you can call it whatever you want. I used to call them playlist, detail, and so on. So let's create that. Okay, cool. It's going to be like this. And here, the playlist is pretty simple. It has a name. It has a description. And it will have an enumerable of video detail class that I haven't created yet, but I will do in a bit, like videos. And yeah, we forgot the most important one, which is the ID of this playlist. Stuff like that. So we have this one, it's just like this. So yeah, let's comment this just for now, because we will do the videos when we will start working with the videos. Now let's just focus on the playlists, but I've just put it here for reference. Okay, this is basically the playlist. When we want to submit to the server, if you go to the models here and then the models again, we will have playlist. And as you can see, the playlist is name, description, ID, and list of videos. And there is also another properties here, like the creation date, modification date, created by user, and modified by user. So we will see how we will manage those in a bit. Like you will learn something new related to entity framework, how we'll override the save changes async. So it's going to populate this for us, and we won't do this ourselves. So what we should concentrate on is basically just name, description. This is what we want to do. So I will take this, no, not this one, this one. I will use the same object that I'm going to send and to receive from the server to create this one. So the name is required. Either you are editing or you are deleting. This one is like string length. Let's define it to 80. And the description, it is not required. Fight for 5,000. So here, if we right now, okay, if we go to, okay, to the repository right now, to this project here, and I should create add class, or basically it's going to be an interface, and I will call it iPlaylist repository like that. Okay, that's great. Let's have it public. Now let's create the famous functions like task, create async. It will take playlist, playlist. Okay, that's nice. Now we have remove. It's not async. Basically, it's not asynchronous. And we have create, remove, and we have a enumerable playlist, get all, and here playlist. And we have task get one by ID. So playlist get by ID async. Then let's pass the ID from here, and I will create a class. This is right now the implementation for this. So let's call it playlists repository like that. Implement that function. So this is great. Now click this magical button here, and we have all the functions created for us. What we should do, the next step, is to register, or sorry, to inject application DB context. DB. Okay, that's great. Now let's make those implementations very quickly. Await db.playlists.add async, then the playlist. That's pretty simple. For returning all, it's just that simple. For get by ID, we should add async here. db.playlists.find async path ID. Let's call it return. And for the remove, yeah, db playlist.remove, and let's add the playlist. Yeah, that's pretty simple. That's it. You can see we just repeating some code, but yeah. Now, after we create the repository for this, we should go to the unit of work and add it here. So all I have to do is playlists repository playlists get, and let's scroll down. Sorry. Oh yeah. But okay. So I can copy this. I will paste it here, and then I will just change those. Playlist repository. Yeah, copy paste is nice. And this, and this. Change the name as well to be playlists. And the implementation should be something totally different, which is playlist repository. And let's pass the DB for it. Oh, that's it. It's pretty easy. Now, before I move to the service, let's check the comments, and then we will talk a little bit about the save changes async, how we can override this. So we have some comments here. تحياتي أخي صحيح برمجة بالتأكيد مع تمديد كلاس المستعمل واستخدامي مع البليزر. Okay, shukran in Arabic, thank you in English. And we have another one. Why not have all methods async? Basically, I think we have created all the methods async. If we go back to the repositories here, playlist. Yeah, only the method that has tasks, those are awaitable. Like for example, remove. Still, Microsoft doesn't have an implementation for that, like remove async. So you can see like we have only remove and remove range, and those are not asynchronous. So in this case, I'm just using void. For the return all, yeah, you can use async. I think yes, you can use the enumerable async, but I have just used it like this because basically when you retrieve this, when you just call this one, it's not going to execute this query directly. When it's going to be executed, when you, for example, call .toArray, or when you call .toArray or .toList, for example. So in this case, the query is going to be executed, which is like select star from playlists. But if you click here as enumerable, as async enumerable, so as you can see here, this one is using the new feature in ASP.NET, which is async enumerable, not new in the .NET 5, it's from the last year, but this one is great. But I think like we can proceed with this one, and we can use this one for the videos. Basically, blades, they are not going to be too much, but for the videos, yeah, we are going to use the async enumerable and make it async. So it's pretty interesting function. So you can await the for each, and that's a powerful feature. But for the playlists, yeah, we can just keep it like this. So now I can go to the services and then create a new service in which is the layer before the controller. Okay, I will create first an interface. Okay, interface, it's here. My playlist services. Okay, set it to public. And let's create some functions. So task. And the first one is creating a playlist. And creating the playlist is going to return operation response, the one that we have created the same for the register. But this time it's going to return a playlist detail, just like that. And here I'll say create async, and I can pass playlist detail model. And then let me copy this multiple times. I will make it update async. It's going also to return a playlist detail. I'm going to remove async. And this one, I'm just going to take the ID from the client, and then I will bring the playlist to be removed, and just at the end, remove it. And the other function we have, which is getting all the playlists. For getting all, I am not going to use the operation response. I'm going to use something else. I will create another type of response, which called like collection response. So in this case, it's going to support paging. It's going to support like the number of items retrieved, and it's not going to be specifically for one data or one data record. It's going to be to a set of records. So for now, because we will start working on create, update, remove, let's do them, and then we'll move back to this one. So I have those ready here. Now let's start creating the implementation. So public class playlist service, playlist services. It's not services, it is service. If you want to rename anything, you can click Ctrl-R again, and change the name, and it's going to rename all the references for the member that you are trying to rename. This is just a quick step. Okay, so private, read-only, we need to inject, of course, the famous unit of work. So unit of work. And here I'll say unit of work. Okay, let's import it. Great. Unit of work equals unit of work. That's nice. So let's start with the create first. So I'll have async here, and we can proceed. So what I have to do is to just basically convert this object to playlist and then insert it. Maybe you're asking like why I'm not using AutoMapper. I'm going to use it, but because it's a real project, and it, at the same time it's like training course, so I will try to cover all the concepts. I'm not using AutoMapper all the times to map the objects like the DTOs and the operator and the business models, because sometimes you need to configure AutoMapper and it takes time, so it doesn't save time, especially when it comes to complicated objects. So I have my own ways to create some mappers here, like I create them myself to map the business model to the DTO. And because the DTO to business model, you are just doing it here for the database. Maybe in this case, if you use AutoMapper, it's going to be great, but when we'll use like complicated objects, I've tried to use it multiple times in my projects. So I thought, oh, like managing or configuring the process of the mapping is taking time. So I've just went with another simple approach, which is using extension methods. But as I've said, we are going to cover for all the options we have for all the steps. Like we still have videos, we still have comments, so we have a lot of stuff to do. So we can cover as much concepts as we can. and then you choose what you find it comfortable and make you more productive. So here I will create playlist, type new playlist from business model, like that. So here we have those properties that I was talking about: creation date, created by user, and created by user ID, add a foreign key, and modified by user ID. So we have those. I'll show you in a bit how we are going to let Entity Framework define the values for this for us, and we just concentrate only on the value that matters. So we have name equals model.name. ID is a global unique identifier, and basically just getting populated when you create a new object. And we have description equals model.description. Basically, that's it. Now, what I can say is await unit of work dot playlists create async. Let's pass our playlist here, and then I will call await unit of work dot commit changes async, just like that, and I'm going to return new operation response. This success is going to be true. Message like playlist created successfully, and we have data. Yeah, the data it's of type playlist detail, so it's going to be the same object received from the user, but there's going to be one change, which is the ID that has been assigned to this playlist. So here I can say model.id equals playlist.id, and then just retrieve the object as it is received from the customer. So in this case, he's going to receive that playlist, so we can add it, for example, if you are working in the UI, to the list view or the data grid, but the ID is going to be there if you want to use it for edit or remove or whatever. So it is this function, but right now, this function is not going to work. And why? Because the created by user, modified by date, or user ID, those are required properties, and we didn't set any value for them yet. So what we have to do is basically, if I go to infrastructure here, if you see before, I have created those auth options, and those auth options allows me to inject the settings of the authentication here inside the user service. I need to create another option that allows me to bring the user ID and, like, let's say, the claims of the user to the services. Like whenever you create any request or submit any request here in the controllers, let's go for this one or this one. This one is protected. So here you have access in the controller for a user, and this means here you have access for all the claims. You have the first name, the last name, the email, the ID. So you know the ID, the logged in user. But how I can push this data back to the services? The way to do it is to create new options here, a class, and I will call them identity options. So let's make them public, and I'll type string user ID, then string email, just in case I need it for something. And we have, let's bring the full name, and I will add a property called isAdmin. So this nice object, I will prepare it whenever I receive any protected request. So the access token will be there, so I can identify the user. Then I can bring that request. I can fetch the data from the claims received from the request, and then I can populate this object and inject it in any service I want. So I'll go back to the startup.cs. Okay. Oh, look at that. The code of configure services became too big, so we need to clean up a little bit. But I will specify a specific session for this, so we can move all these parts to extension methods. So now I will add scooped here, SP, the service provider, new, or before this new, what I'm going to do is basically just like that. So there is something in the controllers. What is the controller? Okay, let's go back to it. So in the controllers here, you have access to the context. You can say context, HTTP context, then yeah. In the HTTP context, here you have access for the request, and within the request, you have access for the headers and all the variables available, and you have also the user. But in other places, how you can use or get access to the HTTP context that has the request and the response. Like if you want to get any data from the request, or you want to manipulate the response in a way or another, basically Microsoft allows you to do this and access this context from outside the controller using a service called HTTP context accessor. So we can inject that service or register it, let's say, services.add HTTP context accessor. This one allows us to be able to access that HTTP context. So when you try to add scooped and you are using this overload, you pass iService provider. This iService provider allows you to fetch any service you want that's basically registered in the dependency injection container. So I will retrieve the HTTP context by saying sb.getService, and it's of type IHTTP context accessor. Okay, let's import the situated namespace. It's that simple. Right now, in this case, you have access for the HTTP context. And basically, you can say your dot. So here you have the HTTP context. So in this case, you have also access for the user. And now, what I'm going to do is to create var identity options equals new identity options. Great. I won't set any value. And at the end, I'm going to return them, to return this object as it is. So while it's showing this, okay, ambiguous reference between identity options and Microsoft ASP.NET Core identity options. Oh, okay. So there is a, like, what I can do is I say dot netlabs dot structure. It's not mentioned here. Yeah, it should be here, the project. Okay, I can say use full name. It's a from structure.identity.identity options. Yeah, just like this. So in this case, it's returning this object as it is. In the middle, it's going either to be like registered but empty, the there, or if the user is authenticated, let's say HTTP context.user.identity.is authenticated. So this means this request is authenticated and there is a user, so the data of the user is available. This is the case when you make any call for any protected controller and you have the access token valid. And here, what I can do is extract the data I want from the user object. I can say HTTP context.user.claims, or I can use the function directly, find first, which basically returns a claim for you. Now let's return pass the name of the claim, claim type, sorry. Those are a set of predefined claims we have used to put as a payload in the JWT if you watch the first part. So the claim is key value. Let's retrieve its value. So right now I have the ID of the user. So that's great. Now I will have full name, or let's say first name. I've used for the first name a claim called given name. And for the last name, it's called surname. That's great. And for the email, it is email, very simple. And at the end, for the role, it's called role. So right now, I have all the values extracted from the access token, and I know like all the details from the logged in user. What can I do right now is to say return or identity options dot ID, user ID equals to the ID, identity options dot email equals to the email, like that, and full name equals like that, first name, last name, identity options dot is admin. Is admin, we are going to check if the role equals admin, then it's true. Other than that, it's false. And yeah, those are everything. So in this case, whenever I receive any request, I can inject right now identity options whenever I want. And basically, I need them here. So let's inject that, read only, identity options. Click here, let's say, okay, namespace server.infrastructure. That's great. I'll call it identity. Oh, that's great. So in this case, I have all the magic of the user, all the data I want available for me just by doing this step. So I hope like you get this question, you get this idea, and if you have any question for this, before I proceed in managing the, let's say the auditing values, like creating by or this stuff, if you have any question about this, you can post it in the comment section. And yeah, here we have a recommendation. You should change the color of your Visual Studio for us to see, because the quality of your video is not 1080. Oh yeah, sorry for this, for the quality, because I'm using the fastest internet connection available here. Maybe I will try to go with the white color next time. So, and in this case, yeah, maybe it's going to be better. So just please, if there is any question, you can just post it right now. Okay, here we have a question. Unit of work is built in for Entity Framework Core. So why create a separate unit of work? Yeah, this is a good question. This is why we have talked about this in the first video, or the first part, like why we are doing this and repeating the same stuff. I have said this because basically, let me explain this here. So it's going to be a good idea to do that on this whiteboard. So bring myself back to here. So we have, are you doing authentication right now? Yeah, basically we have just finished from the authentication. You can go back to the part 1 and part 2 and the beginning of this part, so you can just complete to get step by step by authentication from the first part and to the end. This is server side. Once we are done from the server side, you will move back to the client, and then you will play with the Blazor and doing the magic stuff. Okay. So if you are new to the Blazor, so welcome. This is the best place, I think, for you, hopefully at least. So because we are going to build stuff from scratch, this is the good thing. So we have Fernando. Just want to. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for that nice comment. I hope like this one is also going to benefit you as well. So I hope like the idea of identity options is clear. So let's do the last thing before we end up the session, which is implementing the comment to change async by setting the values of description modified. I will click F12 and I'll go to the implementation of this method. As you can see, I'm calling here in this one db.savechanges async. Now, this function is existing by default in the DB context, the parent class. But we are able to override this so we can manipulate the logic of saving just a little bit. To do so, I'm going to go for, let's say, application DB context, click F12. Okay, right now I'm in the DB context of entity framework. Let's go here and click override. We have on save or save changes async. We have this one and this one. Okay, great. This is the save changes async that we want to override. So I will add async here, and I will add async here. Or oh, wait, sorry. Return and wait, because it's returning the number of the items getting affected from this. What I can do, if I check like get entries or entries, with that for each DB context, we have this dot, yeah. If you have a look here, there is a method called change tracker dot entries. Okay, this method basically returns an enumerable of entity entry. Basically, this one, whenever before you click on save changes, like whenever you remove anyone, add or edit, so it's existing here before you call the save changes. So what we can do is we can say, okay, I will first retrieve all the items and put them in a let's say loop over them. Okay, change tracker dot entries. So okay, in this case, I have all the entries available for me. And if you remember in the models, like we have, for example, like playlist, it's a user record. This means it's a record associated to the user, so it has a creation modification created by your user ID. Other types are not like this. So what can I do? Okay, what is application DB context here? So I will say if item dot is user record. So in this case, this item is just of type user record. So what is that? Of type. Yeah, this item is item dot dot entity. Oh, sorry. Item dot entity. Okay, if the entity or the object, let's say, got affected of type user record, this means it has that properties. So what can I do is I'll say user record equals, let's cast it to user record item dot entity. And here I will say if item dot, we can right now fetch or see the status, like what happened to it. Let me check. Yeah, there is a property here called state, or instead of putting it in F, let's put it in a switch. Take that tab, so I will say item.state. Okay, so those basically are the states we have: deleted, modified, and added. Yeah. What can I do right now is for the modified, let's forget about this, because deleted, we are going to delete, and changed or detached, we are not going to do anything. For modified, what I will do is user record dot modified date equals datetime dot UTC now, and user record dot modified by ID. Here I want the user ID that basically is committing the save, or so I will create a variable here. I will call it private string user ID has no value, and or let's put it, give it a null value by default first. I'll say it's that user ID. So in this case, whenever you change any type of user record, you set a new value for it, it's going to be added for the entries, and the state is going to be modified. Before we save, you just check, okay, if this item is user record, then okay, go to the modification date and modified by user and set those values. If it's added, then do the same, copy them again, but set creation date and created by user ID. I hope this is clear. Now we still have to populate the value of user ID. And what can I do is just to create an entry point for this function. So let's make it like public async task save changes async, and this one is going to take user ID. And what's going to do is to set user ID equals user ID, and then await save changes async. It's going to call this one. I've used the same name, but I have this different parameter. Like, I hope that this one is clear. It's a very good trick to get rid of all the headache of setting those values every time you are editing or adding. So you can tell Entity Framework to do so. Now, I can move back to the playlist service, and all I have to do right now is for the unit of work, I will configure it to take a user ID, string user ID, and right now I can call my own function that takes the user ID that I have created, and that's it. This is everything we have to do. Now, if I add ID here, so it's identity, identity.user ID. Okay, cool. In this case, I can create a new playlist very easily. And here, now I'll put a breakpoint here to, let's say, make a quick recap to maybe understand what I've done, because we have done some good stuff for now. Let me go to the server, create a new controller. Okay, playlists controller. Sorry, again, I've created the wrong type of controllers. API, playlists, controller. Okay, that's great. Now I will add authorize here. You have to be logged in to be able to access this playlist. And let's inject read-only iPlaylists service. Okay, we need to add this one, playlist service, get a constructor, service. Okay, cool. Let's create the endpoint, HTTP, create, public async task, action result, create, and it takes playlist detail, model, and for the same steps, for result, playlist, create async, add the model, check if the result is success. Oh yeah, I forget that wait here. Success, then return OK. It's not, then just return bad request and the result. Wow, that's pretty simple. The last thing before we run is just we need to register this. So let's go to startup. Say playlist service. Okay, that's great. That's pretty simple. Now, also in the next session, we will talk about like I will add to do here, using attributes to register the services. So whenever you create any new service, just add an attribute on top of it. So it's going to be registered in the container. There is no need to do this every time. So now we are ready. I will run this. I will put the breakpoint here, and I will go to Postman. Let me duplicate this. It's post/playlists/create, and I have to take the access token. Oh yeah, this is a bad thing because the playlist is going to be created by the admin only. Only the admin can manage the content. So I need to log in with the admin. Test. Let me call this function. Okay, let me take this. And I will use that one here. Barrier token. Nice. Now for the body, I will get rid of all of this. Now for the name, Blazor, WebAssembly, full course. And for the description, learn Blazor, WebAssembly, etc. And that's another description. So this is great. One thing we have to do is to add authorize here, but only for the admin. Now let me send the request and see what's going to happen. Great. This is our breakpoint headed. Now the model has these two values. Fantastic. I'll click F11, F11. So now let's create the playlist. Okay, that's fine. Let's have a look here. Okay, we have the ID populated because I've already done that in the constructor of it. All the data available, the creation date has been set by default, other stuff. Now, yeah, you see it's going to the other layer, then shift delete. Okay, for the committed changes async, have a look at this. It's going to go for this one and make a call. It will set the user ID. Then it will go to our function. This is going to find one entry. Like you see, it's going to say, okay, I found an entity, which is the playlist, and the status of that playlist is to be added. You can check it from here. You see it's to be added because we clicked added, but we didn't save it yet. So when you go to that one, Okay, it will cast it user record because, yeah, it's a playlist, but it inherits from user record. Go to that one. You can see it's setting the modification, setting the creation, and complete. Okay, it's done. And right now we have an ID. We set it back to the value that has been set from the user. And let's make this magic return. Click continue. And this is it. We have a very nice response. Data, the ID, name, description is success true. Playlist has been created successfully. Let's go to our database and make a call for from playlists. Oh, wow, this is our playlist. That's fantastic. Great. Like, I hope you get the full idea of what we are doing and you have learned something new today. Or the thing that I want you to learn or to master is basically not to do things like individually. Maybe you can attend any course and you watch a video, so you learn how to, for example, insert an entry into a database. But the thing that you should learn is how to put all of this together and building a real app and make it functional, and there is some user that's getting value out of it. This is the let's say the hard part out of programming and software development, and the thing that you should master properly, which is putting the pieces all together. So if there is any question, please let me know. Hi, Sarush. Bye bye. Have a, I don't know, good night or good morning. It's based on your time zone. It's going to be good night here, but yeah, thanks for joining us. Welcome, dear. See you in the next one. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, the code's going to be available on GitHub pretty soon. Like, I will just upload it, push it to GitHub. I just need to check the difference between the repositories I did. Okay, and of course, I'll put the links for the part 1 and part 2. And I think you can also find them from go to AK Academy here. Yeah, if you make a visit for the channel. Oh, what happened? Yeah, and from this one here, you can just basically click on videos. So yeah, you will find the last 3 existing here, and I will make sure to put them in one playlist, and I will mention the links in the description of each video. So, okay, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that one, just like me here. And see you in the next one. I'm going to define the time and the date on my Twitter account. You can find me at AhmedMuzaffar99. So wish you a very Merry Christmas and a New Year as well. It's the holiday week coming on. So enjoy it, guys, and I wish you like a very, very happy New Year and Merry Christmas. Yeah, we have another comment. There are some access restrictions for this stream. Couldn't access from Germany proxy. Oh, really? I have to check this because I'm just using the app called StreamYard to make the stream. I will check that. So thanks for mentioning this, and again, thank you, and have a good day. Bye bye.